The early days of June 2025 brought news of a significant escalation in the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia. On a Sunday, Ukrainian officials announced their largest long-range drone attack since the full-scale invasion began in February 2022. This operation marked a new level of audacity and sophistication in Ukraine's military strategy. It demonstrated a growing capability to strike deep within Russian territory, targeting high-value military assets far from the front lines. The sheer scale of the attack, involving numerous drones and multiple targets, signaled a shift in how Ukraine perceives its offensive options, moving beyond defensive postures to proactive strategic strikes aimed at diminishing Russia's war-making capacity directly. The implications of such an attack reverberate far beyond the immediate battlefield, touching upon issues of national security, technological warfare, and the very nature of modern conflict itself. This daring offensive was not a random act of aggression but a meticulously planned operation, showcasing a remarkable level of intelligence gathering and logistical execution. The targets chosen were not incidental, they were strategic Russian air bases, home to aircraft crucial for Russia's military operations against Ukraine. By striking these assets, Ukraine aimed to degrade Russia's ability to launch missile attacks and conduct aerial surveillance, thereby protecting its own civilian population and military forces. The success of such an operation, even if only partially achieving its stated goals, sends a powerful message about Ukraine's resilience and its evolving military prowess. It challenges the narrative of Russian military dominance and highlights the vulnerabilities of even heavily defended installations. The world watches, as the dynamics of this protracted war continue to evolve with each bold move and countermove. The significance of this particular drone strike extends into the realm of asymmetric warfare. Ukraine, facing a numerically and technologically superior adversary in conventional terms, has increasingly relied on innovative tactics and technologies to level the playing field. Drones have become a cornerstone of this approach, offering a cost-effective means to gather intelligence, conduct reconnaissance, and deliver precise strikes. This recent operation, however, represents a quantum leap in the scale and complexity of drone usage by Ukrainian forces. It underscores how nations with fewer traditional military resources can leverage advanced, relatively accessible technology to project power and inflict significant damage on a formidable opponent, thereby altering strategic calculations on both sides of the conflict. As we analyze the events of early June 2025, it is crucial to understand the broader context. The war had already dragged on for over 3 years, with devastating consequences for both nations and significant geopolitical ramifications globally. Russia's initial objectives of a swift takeover had long since failed, replaced by a grinding war of attrition primarily in eastern and southern Ukraine. Moscow still controlled a significant portion of Ukrainian territory, a stark reminder of the initial invasion's impact. Yet Ukraine's resolve has not wavered. This drone attack represents not just a military operation, but a statement of intent, a declaration that Ukraine will continue to fight for its sovereignty, using all means at its disposal, adapting and innovating in the face of overwhelming odds. The courage to execute such a complex mission deep within enemy territory speaks volumes. The Ukrainian Security Service, SBU, proudly claimed responsibility for this audacious series of strikes, dubbing the mission Operation Spider's Web. This name itself evokes a sense of intricate planning and a widely cast net designed to ensnare its targets. According to SBU sources who spoke with international media like BBC News, the operation was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. Instead, it was the culmination of a year and a half of meticulous organization, intelligence gathering, and logistical preparation. This extended time frame highlights the immense challenges involved in orchestrating an attack of this magnitude against a state actor like Russia, known for its extensive security apparatus and air defense systems. The patience and persistence required underscore the SBU's commitment to developing and executing high-impact operations. The sheer number of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, deployed in Operation Spider's Web is noteworthy. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that a total of 117 drones were launched, each reportedly having its own pilot or operator, suggesting a sophisticated command and control system. This detail, if accurate, points to a significant investment in drone technology and personnel training. The coordination of such a large swarm of drones, potentially navigating complex flight paths to avoid detection and reach disparate targets simultaneously, represents a significant operational feat. It speaks to Ukraine's growing expertise in leveraging modern drone capabilities for strategic effect, moving beyond localized tactical use to coordinated, deep strike missions. The complexity involved in managing so many individual assets during a live operation is a testament to advanced planning. Adding another layer of intrigue and complexity, President Zelensky also claimed that the SBU's Operation Control Center was cunningly located within one of Russia's own regions. He further asserted that this control hub was situated right next to the Russian FSB, Russia's principal security agency. This bold claim, if verified, would represent an astonishing intelligence coup and a significant security lapse on Russia's part. The idea of Ukrainian operatives managing a major drone offensive from deep within enemy territory, practically under the nose of Russian counterintelligence, sounds like a plot from a spy thriller. Zelensky also stated that all personnel involved in orchestrating the operation from this supposed Russian location were safely removed from Russia before the attacks commenced, ensuring their escape after their critical mission was underway. The logistical challenges of Operation Spider's Web cannot be overstated. SBU sources describe the entire endeavor as logistically extremely complex. This complexity encompassed not only the planning and coordination but also the clandestine movement of resources and personnel. The need to develop secure communication channels, bypass Russian electronic warfare systems, and ensure the timely arrival of drones at their launch points, all while maintaining operational secrecy for 18 months, illustrates the formidable obstacles overcome. The successful execution, as claimed by Ukraine, suggests a highly disciplined and capable intelligence and special operations force, adept at navigating the perilous landscape of covert activities within a hostile nation. This operation will undoubtedly be studied for its daring and intricate design for years to come. A critical aspect of Operation Spider's Web was the ingenious method reportedly used to smuggle the drones into Russian territory and position them for launch. According to SBU sources, the drones were not launched from Ukrainian soil, which would have required them to traverse hundreds if not thousands of kilometers of Russian airspace, facing formidable air defenses along the way. Instead, the drones were covertly transported deep inside Russia. This approach minimized flight time over hostile territory and increased the element of surprise. The primary method involved concealing the drones within specially modified remote-controlled wooden mobile cabins. These unassuming structures, mounted on trucks, were designed to blend into civilian traffic and avoid suspicion from Russian authorities during their transit. These mobile cabins served as Trojan horses, carrying their deadly cargo undetected to locations near the targeted airbases. Once in position, the roofs of these cabins could be opened remotely, transforming them into makeshift launch platforms. This allowed the drones to be deployed at the right time, presumably coordinated to achieve maximum impact across multiple sites. This method demonstrates a high degree of creativity and resourcefulness in overcoming the challenge of delivering a strike capability deep within enemy lines. The use of such civilian guise infrastructure for military purposes highlights the blurring lines in modern conflict and the innovative ways non-state and state actors adapt to achieve their objectives. The simplicity of wooden cabins concealing advanced technology is a stark contrast. Corroborating these claims, Irkutsk Governor Igor Kobzev confirmed that at least some of the drones attacking the Belaya military base in Sredny Siberia were indeed launched from a truck. He stated on Telegram that the launch site had been identified and secured by Russian authorities after the attack. This admission from a Russian regional official lends credibility to the SBU's account of the drone deployment methodology. Furthermore, reports from Russian media outlets also surfaced, describing similar drone attacks launched from trucks. One social media user even mentioned witnessing drones flying from a Kamaz truck near a gas station, suggesting that this tactic may have been employed in multiple locations, further underscoring the widespread nature of the operation's infiltration. The logistical feat of moving these drone-laden trucks across vast distances within Russia, potentially through multiple security checkpoints without detection, is remarkable. It implies a sophisticated support network, meticulous planning of routes, and possibly the exploitation of corruption or security vulnerabilities within Russia. The drivers and handlers of these trucks would have been operating under immense pressure, knowing the significance of their mission and the severe consequences of discovery. The successful deployment from these mobile launch sites near heavily guarded military installations points to either exceptional skill and evasion by Ukrainian operatives or significant gaps in Russian internal security and surveillance measures, a concerning prospect for Russian defense planners. This method of infiltration represents a significant tactical innovation. The targets of Operation Spider's Web were not chosen at random, they were carefully selected for their strategic importance to Russia's war effort. Ukrainian sources, specifically from the SBU, reported that at least 4 major Russian airbases were hit. These included Belaya Air Base in the Irkutsk Oblast of Siberia, a significant distance from Ukraine, highlighting the operation's reach. Another target was Olenya Air Base in the Murmansk Oblast, located in Russia's far northwest, close to NATO borders. The Dyagilevo Air Base in the Ryazan region, considered part of Russia's central military district, was also struck, along with an airbase in the Ivanovo region, also in central Russia. This geographical dispersion of targets demonstrates a coordinated effort to impact Russian air capabilities across a wide area. The types of aircraft reportedly damaged or destroyed are particularly significant. Ukrainian sources claim that the strikes affected Russia's strategic nuclear-capable bombers, specifically the Tupolev Tu-95, NATO reporting name Bear, and the Tupolev Tu-22M3, NATO reporting name Backfire. These aircraft are mainstays of Russia's long-range aviation, and have been extensively used to launch cruise missiles against Ukrainian cities and infrastructure. Damaging these bombers would directly impact Russia's ability to conduct such standoff attacks, potentially saving Ukrainian lives and protecting critical infrastructure. The psychological impact of hitting assets associated with Russia's nuclear deterrent, even if the conventional variants were targeted, is also considerable, sending a clear message of Ukraine's reach. In addition to the strategic bombers, the SBU also claimed that A-50 mainstay early warning and control aircraft were among those affected. The A-50 is a crucial asset for Russia, providing airborne surveillance, detection of enemy aircraft and missiles, and command and control functions for air operations. The loss or damage of even a few A-50s would represent a significant blow to Russia's situational awareness and its ability to coordinate air activities effectively over the battlefield. Ukraine has previously claimed success in downing A-50 aircraft, and targeting them on the ground would be a logical extension of this strategy to blind a key Russian military capability. These aircraft are few in number and expensive to replace, making them high-value targets. The overall objective appears to have been a substantial degradation of Russia's strategic aviation capabilities. President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that the operation affected 34% of Russia's strategic cruise missile carriers, a remarkably high figure that, if accurate, would represent a severe setback for the Russian military. While the BBC and other independent sources noted they could not immediately verify all Ukrainian claims regarding the extent of the damage, the specific targeting of these strategic assets indicates a clear intent. Ukraine aimed to reduce the threat posed by Russian long-range aviation directly, impacting its ability to project power and sustain its offensive operations. The choice of these particular airframes underscores the strategic thinking behind Operation Spider's Web. Kyiv's voice, Zelensky hails a brilliant success. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was swift and effusive in his praise for the Security Service of Ukraine, or SBU, following the announcement of the drone strikes. He publicly congratulated SBU Chief Vasyl Malyuk, lauding the operation as an absolutely excellent result. Such high-level commendation underscores the significance attributed to this mission by the Ukrainian leadership. For a nation under siege, operations that demonstrate offensive capability and inflict tangible damage on the aggressor provide a crucial morale boost, both for the armed forces and the civilian population. Zelensky's words aimed to project strength, competence, and, unwavering resolve to continue the fight, reassuring Ukrainians that their country is capable of striking back effectively. The president's statements also provided some intriguing, albeit unverified, details about the operation's execution. He claimed that each of the 117 drones launched had its own pilot. This detail, if accurate, suggests a highly resource-intensive approach, requiring a large number of trained drone operators and a complex command and control structure to manage them simultaneously during the mission. It also implies a level of precision and human oversight for each drone, potentially allowing for dynamic retargeting or maneuvering to evade defenses. This contrasts with simpler swarm tactics where drones might operate with more autonomy based on pre-programmed instructions, indicating a sophisticated human-in-the-loop system for this particular large-scale attack. Perhaps one of the most audacious claims made by President Zelensky concerned the operational control of the mission. He asserted that the SBU's command center for Operation Spider's Web was located not in Ukraine, but in one of Russia's regions, right next to the Russian FSB. This stunning allegation, if true, would represent an extraordinary feat of covert operations and a deeply embarrassing security failure for Russia. The idea of Ukrainian intelligence orchestrating such a complex attack from within enemy territory, practically under the noses of Russia's premier security agency, speaks to a level of daring and infiltration previously unseen. Zelensky added that all personnel involved in this clandestine command post were safely removed from Russia before the drone attacks commenced, ensuring their exfiltration. These pronouncements from Kyiv serve multiple purposes. Internally, they aim to bolster national unity and confidence in Ukraine's defense capabilities. Externally, they send a clear message to Russia about Ukraine's growing reach and its willingness to take significant risks to defend its sovereignty. They also signal to international partners that Ukraine is capable of utilizing advanced military tactics and achieving strategic objectives, potentially influencing continued military and financial support. While some claims are difficult to independently verify in the fog of war, the confident tone and specific details provided by President Zelensky paint a picture of a meticulously planned and daringly executed operation, a symbol of Ukrainian defiance and ingenuity. Section 6. Moscow's reaction, accusations and confirmations. The Russian Federation did not remain silent in the face of such a widespread and audacious attack on its military infrastructure. Russian authorities officially confirmed that Ukrainian drone attacks had indeed occurred, impacting several of its regions. While the user brief text initially mentioned in 5 regions of Ukraine, this appears to be a contextual error, as subsequent information clarifies the attacks were on Russian territory. Moscow's public acknowledgement of the attacks, even without confirming the full extent of the damage claimed by Kiev, lent credence to the fact that a significant operation had taken place. This confirmation, however, was quickly followed by strong condemnation from Russian officials, who characterized the drone strikes as acts of terrorism. This labeling of the attacks as terrorism is a common rhetorical strategy employed by states when their military assets or territory are targeted by non-traditional means or by adversaries they do not recognize as legitimate combatants in the same vein. By framing Ukraine's actions in this way, Russia seeks to delegitimize the operations in the eyes of the international community and its own populace. It attempts to portray Ukraine as an indiscriminate aggressor rather than a nation defending itself against an ongoing invasion. This narrative also serves to justify potential retaliatory measures by Russia, casting them as responses to terrorist threats rather than escalations in a conventional war. The language used by Moscow is therefore highly significant in understanding its political and strategic posturing. Specific regional officials in Russia also provided fragments of information. For instance, Russian media reported on the attack in the Murmansk Oblast, home to the Olenya Air Base, noting that air defense systems were actively working to counter the incoming drones. While such statements aim to project an image of a robust defense, they also implicitly confirm the presence of a threat that necessitated such defensive action. The Irkutsk governor Igor Kobzev went further by confirming that drones attacking the Balaya military base in his region were launched from a truck, a detail that aligns with Ukrainian claims about the operational methodology. These piecemeal confirmations from various Russian sources, while controlled, collectively paint a picture of a coordinated and widespread assault. The official Russian response, therefore, was a mixture of guarded confirmation and strong denunciation. The Kremlin faces a delicate balancing act. It must acknowledge the reality of attacks on its soil to maintain some credibility, yet it also needs to control the narrative to prevent panic and project an image of strength and control. The accusation of terrorism serves this dual purpose. However, the very fact that Ukrainian drones could penetrate deep into Russian territory, allegedly launched from within Russia itself, raises serious questions about the effectiveness of Russian air defenses and internal security measures, regardless of how the attacks are officially labeled. This presents a significant challenge for Russian military planners and propagandists alike. Section 7. War and Diplomacy. The Istanbul peace talks overshadowed. The timing of Ukraine's large-scale drone offensive added another layer of complexity to the already fraught relationship between Kyiv and Moscow. The attacks reportedly occurred as Russian and Ukrainian negotiators were preparing to travel, or were already en route to Istanbul, Turkey, for a second round of peace talks scheduled for Monday. This coincidence, if it was one, cast a long shadow over the diplomatic efforts, raising questions about the commitment of both sides to finding a peaceful resolution, while simultaneously engaging in significant military actions. The optics of launching a major strike on the eve of negotiations are undeniably challenging for the prospects of constructive dialogue. These peace talks, set to take place in the historic Chirag Palace around 1 o'clock local time, were already viewed with considerable skepticism by many international observers. Expectations for a breakthrough or a comprehensive resolution to end the conflict, which began with Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022, were notably low. The warring parties remained far apart on fundamental issues including territorial integrity, security guarantees, and the future status of occupied regions. The drone attacks, while potentially strengthening Ukraine's negotiating hand by demonstrating its military capabilities, could also be interpreted by Moscow as a provocation, further hardening its stance and diminishing any willingness to offer concessions at the negotiating table. The juxtaposition of intense military operations with diplomatic engagements is not uncommon in protracted conflicts. Often belligerents use military pressure to create leverage or to shape the agenda of peace talks. Ukraine might have intended the drone strikes to signal to Russia that the costs of continuing the war would remain high, thereby encouraging Moscow to negotiate more seriously. Conversely, Russia might view the attacks as evidence of Ukraine's unwillingness to seek peace, using it as a pretext to intensify its own military campaigns. Regardless of the intent, such escalations invariably complicate the delicate process of negotiation, making trust and compromise even more elusive commodities for the diplomats involved. Ultimately, the drone attacks served as a stark reminder that the conflict was far from frozen, and that both sides were still actively seeking to gain advantages on the battlefield, even as their representatives prepared to sit across from each other. The path to peace in Ukraine has always been fraught with immense difficulties, stemming from deeply entrenched positions and the brutal realities of war. This latest military development, occurring in parallel with diplomatic efforts, underscored the profound challenges facing negotiators. It highlighted the grim reality that any meaningful peace would likely require a significant shift in the strategic calculations of one or both parties, a shift that did not appear imminent as they gathered in Istanbul. Section 8. Assessing the damage, the economic and military blow. The immediate aftermath of Operation Spider's Web brought forth significant claims from Ukraine regarding the extent of the damage inflicted upon Russia's strategic aviation assets. The Security Service of Ukraine, or SBU, provided a striking financial estimate, asserting that the drone strikes had caused approximately $7 billion in damages to Russian military hardware. This figure, if accurate, represents a colossal economic blow, particularly for an economy already strained by international sanctions and the ongoing costs of the war. The SBU also promised to release more detailed information about the damage assessment, suggesting they possess evidence to substantiate these substantial claims. Such a loss would be difficult for Russia to absorb quickly, given the complexity and cost of modern military aircraft. Beyond the monetary value, the strategic impact on Russia's air power, as portrayed by Kyiv, was equally severe. President Zelensky's assertion that 34% of Russia's strategic cruise missile carriers were affected by the operation points to a potentially crippling reduction in Moscow's long-range strike capabilities. These aircraft, including the Tu-95 and Tu-22M3 bombers, are vital for launching cruise missiles at Ukrainian infrastructure and military targets from standoff distances. A significant depletion of this fleet would limit Russia's ability to sustain such aerial bombardments, thereby offering a degree of relief to Ukrainian cities and potentially altering the calculus of air warfare in the conflict. The loss of experienced aircrews or specialized ground support equipment, if any occurred, would further compound these difficulties. It is important to note, as organizations like the BBC have pointed out, that these Ukrainian claims regarding the precise number of aircraft hit and the total financial damage have not been independently verified. In the fog of war, information warfare is a constant, and both sides often present figures that serve their strategic narratives. Russia, for its part, has not confirmed such extensive losses and is unlikely to do so. However, even if the actual damage is less than the maximum claimed by Ukraine, the successful penetration of multiple air bases and the targeting of high-value strategic assets undoubtedly represent a significant operational success for Ukraine and a serious concern for Russian military planners. The potential long-term consequences for Russian strategic aviation could be considerable. Replacing sophisticated aircraft like strategic bombers and A-50 early warning planes is a slow and expensive process, even for a major military power like Russia, especially under wartime conditions and sanctions. The need to disperse remaining assets, enhance airbase security, and potentially dedicate more resources to air defense could further strain the Russian military. Moreover, the psychological impact on Russian aircrews and military leadership, knowing that their bases deep within Russia are vulnerable to such attacks, cannot be discounted. This operation, therefore, has implications that extend far beyond the immediate physical destruction, potentially reshaping aspects of Russia's air strategy. Section 9. Conclusion: Drones redefining conflict in the 21st century. The daring Ukrainian drone strike on Russian airbases in early June 2025, dubbed Operation Spider's Web, serves as a potent illustration of the evolving nature of modern warfare. It highlights the increasing prominence of unmanned aerial systems as tools of asymmetric conflict, allowing a nation with fewer conventional resources to project significant power and inflict substantial damage deep within enemy territory. The meticulous planning, innovative smuggling techniques, and coordinated execution across multiple strategic targets demonstrate a remarkable level of sophistication on Ukraine's part. This event underscores how technology, particularly relatively low-cost and adaptable drone platforms, can challenge traditional military hierarchies and create new vulnerabilities for established powers. The era of drone warfare is undeniably upon us. This operation carries profound implications for the ongoing conflict. For Ukraine, it represents a significant morale boost and a demonstration of its capacity to strike back at the aggressor in meaningful ways. It potentially degrades Russia's ability to conduct long-range missile attacks and aerial surveillance, offering some respite to Ukrainian civilians and military forces. For Russia, the attacks expose vulnerabilities in its air defense and internal security, forcing a reassessment of its defensive posture and potentially diverting resources from offensive operations. The substantial claimed financial and material losses, if even partially accurate, add to the already considerable economic burden of the war for Moscow, potentially impacting its long-term war-making capacity. The timing of the strikes, coinciding with planned peace talks in Istanbul, further complicates the already difficult path toward a negotiated settlement. While such actions can sometimes be intended to create leverage, they more often risk escalating tensions and hardening positions, making diplomatic breakthroughs even more elusive. The incident reveals the stark reality that even as diplomatic channels remain nominally open, the military conflict continues with undiminished intensity, with both sides seeking to gain advantages through force of arms. The shadow of war continues to loom large over any prospect for peace, with events like Operation Spider's Web reshaping the landscape upon which any future negotiations must occur. Ultimately, Ukraine's bold drone offensive is more than just a single military event. It is a marker in the continuing narrative of this brutal war and a harbinger of future conflicts. It showcases the ingenuity and resilience of a nation fighting for its survival, while simultaneously revealing the shifting dynamics of military power in the 21st century. As of this writing on June 2, 2025, the full repercussions are still unfolding, but it is clear that the strategic use of drone technology, as exemplified by this operation, will continue to play a decisive role in shaping the contours of this war and conflicts yet to come. The Spider's Web has caught the world's attention, forcing a re-evaluation of offensive capabilities and defensive necessities in an increasingly complex technological age.